He is pimping out his own wife. Am I the bad guy for wanting to be paid for babysitting my own daughter? I'm a 39-year-old guy, and I live with my wife, who's 34, in a suburban house with our daughter, Emily, who's 10. Our next-door neighbor, Walter, is a 48-year-old single father with 2 daughters, a 14-year-old girl and a 12-year-old girl. We've been living here for a little more than 2 years. My wife really likes watching scary movies, but I've never enjoyed them. I get too scared and end up having a bad time, so I prefer to avoid them. Her friends sometimes go with her to the more popular ones, but she also likes older, indies, and foreign horror movies. She's always had a hard time finding people that have this niche interest, and that's why it was such a big deal when we met Walter and found out that he also shares this tendency. They very quickly started to make plans to watch movies together. I was invited to be a part of this, but refused. I prefer to just stay at home babysitting Emily and Walter's daughter while they're out watching movies. Sometimes they go to movie theaters, but other times they just stay at Walter's place watching stuff at his home cinema. They usually have to go to another town to catch some weird movie, so it's normal for them to come back very late. They eventually started doing stuff outside of watching movies, like going out for dinner. Walter invited all of us, including the kids, to go with him to a restaurant that a friend of him owned, but I said no because it was too expensive. I don't like those kinds of places because I feel like they're a waste of money, and I didn't think the kids would enjoy it either. I insisted on staying with the kids and let the 2 of them go be themselves. This has become a regular thing, and in a way, it's a good deal for me because Walter pays for my wife's dinner and she can no longer complain about me not taking her to fancy restaurants. Since their movie and dinner nights have become so common, I've grown a little tired of the burden of constantly babysitting the girls. I talked to my wife and Walter about it, and he explained that he usually doesn't like leaving his daughter with babysitters. He says he's really comfortable knowing that they're being watched by an experienced father like me instead of some teenage girl. He nevertheless agreed that it was too much of a load for me and offered to start paying me a standard babysitting fee each time that he goes out with my wife. I thought that was a fair approach to the issue, but my wife was fully against it. She says that I shouldn't be paid for babysitting my own daughter, nor the daughter of a close friend of our family like Walter. We've been arguing about this, but she insists on this notion and is not open to change. She even gets mad every time that I talk to her about this. Walter promised me that he'll convince her, but he doesn't seem to have been able to do so either. Am I the bad guy? Okay, this story did not go the way I expected it to. Let's be clear, OP. Walter is straight up dating your wife. I don't necessarily mean that they're having an affair, but I do mean that they're literally going on dates. It's actually dinner and a movies. He's taking her to dinner and then the movies, and he's paying for it. That's a date. This is a date. And while there's nothing inherently wrong or I'm not saying this is cheating, and it's not necessarily wrong for a married woman and a single guy to go out for some event like a movie. It's not inherently cheating. But the problem, OP, is that you're outsourcing your marriage to Walter. You're saying, I don't really care about my wife's interest or making her happy or spending time with her, so I'm just going to let some other guy do it for me. At first, it seemed kind of reasonable because you don't like scary movies, and I'm in your exact same shoes, OP, because my wife likes scary movies and I hate scary movies. But I'll be damned if I let some other random guy take my wife out to dinner and then to the movies. No way! I would watch 10, 100, 1,000 scary movies with my wife and be miserable the whole time, rather than have some guy take my wife out on weekly dates. No way, man. Not gonna happen. OP, are you aware that you're basically pushing your wife into another man's arms? You not liking scary movies is understandable, but then on top of that, you said that you don't want to go out to fancy restaurants, and it's clear that you just don't want to spend time with your wife. You don't want to do anything nice with her, be romantic with her, engage her in things that she's interested in. Instead, you just want to sit at home and do nothing with your kid. This is not... Sorry, I was about to say something, but then I read this comment from IDC Pixman. Whether or not you should get paid for babysitting is entirely between you and your wife's boyfriend. Yeah, OP, this has very little to do with the kids that you're babysitting and whether you should get paid for the babysitting. It has everything to do with the fact that you're just not being a husband, and Walter is being a husband. What do you guys think the odds are that Walter is currently railing the wife? I think I don't know. I was going to say 25%, but then I remembered the line about sometimes they have to go see an obscure movie in another town over and they don't get back until really late. So now I'm thinking closer to like 50%. Maybe the reason why... You think the reason why the wife is so against the idea of paying is because it makes her feel like a prostitute? It makes her feel like she's a prostitute and you're the pimp and Walter is paying you to take her out so that he can rail her. It's possible. That could actually be the reason why she's so upset about it. Oh, man. OP, I'm giving you, I'm going to give you 2.5 out of 5 bad guys because you have become completely disengaged with your wife. Who knows? I'm giving Walter and your wife either 0 out of 5 bad guys for just having platonic movie nights, or 4 out of 5 bad guys for cheating behind your back. Am I the bad guy for telling my sister-in-law that she can leave Christmas dinner when she freaked out over tampons? I'm a 28-year-old woman, and I've been with my boyfriend, Ian, who's 32 for 3 years now. We decided to host a small early Christmas dinner. One of the people invited was Ian's brother, Jake, who's 26. Jake asked if he could bring his girlfriend because she was all alone. They've been together for 3 months. We agreed because the more the merrier. His girlfriend, Navia, seemed a bit timid but lovely. Navia brought her 8-year-old son, who we didn't know was coming. She seemed lovely, right until she went to the bathroom. Then she came out shrieking with a box of my tampons in her hand, literally gasping for air in between her shrieks. I could barely understand her. Turns out my box of tampons was visible in the bathroom. She was going off about me being disgusting. How could I be so shameless to have this in front of a child and other men and so on? I looked at her in disbelief. I couldn't believe that she made a scene about a box of tampons. Has she never been inside of a grocery store? Anyway, I told her that my tampons stay where they were, but if she's so pressed, she can leave and go home where no tampons are present. She turned red, quite literally. Her face was bright pink. Huffing and puffing, she dressed her kid and told Jake to drive her home, which he did. Jake didn't come back, but he called from her house telling Ian that I was the bad guy. I was surprised to hear that my boyfriend agreed with him. I thought he'd be on my side. We were about to argue, but I decided that it wasn't worth it and went to my office to cool down and think this through. Am I the bad guy for telling her to leave? All right, hold up. So the tampons were in the bathroom, which is where they should be, of course. And her response to seeing this horribly forbidden object is to take it out of the bathroom and show it to everyone and scream about it? Like, no one would have even noticed the tampons if she hadn't made a big deal about it. Like, imagine if it was, like a dirty magazine. How dare you have this dirty magazine, as she shakes it and waves it in front of everyone, including her own kid, to see. Lady, if it's that bad for people to see, why are you showing it to everyone? Also, it's not her house. Man, it's not her house. Basically, a stranger came to your house and insulted you and called you a bunch of names when, have you even met this girl before? And she's, insulting you in your own home? Yeah, GTFO, get out of my house, lady. I would have done the same thing, OP. I don't know what your boyfriend is thinking taking her side. OP, I'm giving you an easy 0 out of 5 bad guys. I'm giving Navia 1.5 out of 5 bad guys, and I'm giving your boyfriend 1 out of 5 bad guys. Am I the bad guy for forbidding my sister to meet my child and telling my wife to butt out of the situation? So I'm a 28-year-old guy, and I've been married to my wife for 4 years, and we have a 2-year-old son together. My older sister, Ariel, has 2 kids with her husband. She's my only sibling, but we don't speak and haven't since my wedding 4 years ago. My wife knew that I had no relationship with my sister or mother when we got together, but now it's causing an argument. We were a pretty typical family until my mom cheated my senior year of high school with a coworker. My dad moved out immediately, and I moved with him. This caused a rift between me and my sister. My sister believed that since my mom was sorry and it was a one-time thing, as my mom claimed, and she was trying to reconcile through the church, that me and my dad's refusal to speak with my mom was somehow wrong. At the time, I was 18 and my sister was 20. It's a long story, but eventually my sister stopped speaking with my dad. I haven't seen my mom since 2016, and we've only spoken once since 2019 when she tried to invite herself to my wedding. My mom wasn't invited, but my sister was out of courtesy. My sister didn't show up, and we haven't spoken since. My wife knew when she married me that my only family was my dad and my cousins. She said it was okay and that she didn't care. So a few months ago, my wife got a call from my sister's husband, who I've never met, and he said that he wanted to start mending the bridge and would like to have me come meet their kids. I said no. Well, then my sister started sending pictures of her kids to my wife, and my wife sent pictures back. I told her multiple times that I did not like this, and she told me that she could send pics to whoever she wants. I said that if she keeps testing my boundaries, she'll be a single parent very soon. That she signed up for me as is. My wife is saying that it's wrong to deprive my son of his family. I said, I don't even have a relationship with my sister or brother-in-law, so why should my kid? This doesn't make me feel comfortable at all, and I don't even know these people. Also, any picture that my wife sends could easily be forwarded to my mom. My wife said that she doesn't even understand why my mom can't meet her grandkid, and that comment alone pissed me off. Because I've explained my family drama for years, and it feels like she just ignored it. I said that she really needs to think about who she wants to appease, because I'm not going to stand for disrespect to my boundaries. My dad totally agrees with me and is telling me that I should start setting aside money now for an exit strategy, because my wife's behavior is exactly how my mom used to act, and I should see the warning signs now. Am I the bad guy? Man, this story is a mess. How is it? Okay. First of all, I gotta just point out, how is it logical that the wife cheats and then the husband gets blamed for being upset about the cheating? That's the sister stance. How dare you get upset at your wife for cheating on you? What? And she takes her mom's side? OP, I 100% back your dad, and I 100% respect you for having your dad's back there. I don't understand how you and your dad become the villain in your sister's eyes. That makes no sense. Also, okay, I've got to just say, your wife is stupid. It's very rare that you have a crystal clear picture of exactly what's going to happen if you continue down a path. OP, as demonstrated, is extremely good at burning bridges. He burned the bridge connecting him and his mom, and he burned the bridge connecting him and his sister. These were very, very close relationships that he had that he just torched. Now this wife is like, oh, my bridge is completely impervious to fire, 100% fireproof. Nothing will happen to it. I don't think anything can burn this bridge down ever between me and my husband. Meanwhile, OP is standing on the other side of the bridge with a flamethrower and like a bomb. OP, once again, you and your dad are right. Your wife is flagrantly disrespecting your boundaries, and if she continues to do so, then yeah, I think divorce is on the table. Jeez. OP, you and your dad have bad luck with women. Also, I see down in the comments, man, this post has 14,000 upvotes. It's the second most upvoted comment on this entire thread. This guy thinks that the father weaponized OP's emotions against the mother, and he's using those emotions to drive a wedge between you and your wife. I don't buy that at all. There is no evidence in this post whatsoever to indicate that the dad manipulated the son. Huh? Going no contact with your mother over her infidelity seems way too harsh, but again, therapy. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't at all. Your mom betrays your father and the family unit, and then lines clearly get drawn in the sand between the women and the men in the family. And OP's wrong and being manipulated? What? Why are so many people on the mother's side here? She also tried to invite herself to the wedding and just show up unannounced? What? Why are people on the mom's side? The third most upvoted post is saying that everyone sucks here, but you suck the hardest because you're threatening your wife. Yo, guys, listen. This is how a boundary works. This is how boundaries work. If you meet someone, you say, hey, listen, I love you. I want to spend a life with you, but this is my boundary. My boundary is X. Please respect that boundary. Please don't cross that boundary. And then you get married, and then your wife is like, Welcome to rslash Am I the Bad Guy, where OP uncovers a literal human trafficking ring. Hey, before I get into today's video, I just want to say that I've been seeing some comments lately about people saying that I've been giving some really bad takes and that normally I'm more like level-headed and lighthearted, but recently I've been kind of like off with my commentary, giving some really bad commentary. And I just want to apologize for that. I think you guys are right. I have been kind of off base lately. Like, as much as I love this job, I really love this job, but sometimes I think it gets to me. I mean, I publish a story every single day for like, 3 or 4 years now, and reading story after story of cheating wives and toxic boyfriends and bad bosses and entitled parents who steal things from people. It makes me, it kind of takes me to a dark place sometimes, and it makes me cynical and judgmental and just negative. So I think I've kind of gone down that route lately, and you guys have called me out on it and been like, yo, r/, what are you talking about? You're completely off base. So you're right. I'm going to try to recenter myself and pull myself out of this kind of like negative headspace that I've been in lately. So I appreciate the patience. Also, keep in mind, I'm asking for a little bit of understanding here. I know that a lot of you like the commentary and you like the jokes, but please keep in mind that when you're sharing like opinions on 5 to 10 stories every single day, you're bound to get some of them wrong, right? You're bound to have people disagree with you. You're bound to just not give a popular opinion. So even sometimes when I get it wrong, just understand, man, we're all wrong sometimes. I'm doing my best out here. Anyways, I'm not trying to excuse my behavior. If I gave a really bad take, I own up to it and I apologize. Am I the bad guy for letting my daughter and her husband move in with me so they won't be homeless? This situation is complicated, and I'm at my wit's end. I have 2 daughters who are civil to each other, but don't get along with each other. My older daughter is married to Steve, while my youngest is engaged to Adam. Steve and Adam are so different, they disliked each other the first time they met. Steve works part-time because he treasures family time with my daughter. They spend their time traveling and exploring different parts of the States. He spends freely because he often says that he can't take his money with him when he dies. Adam, on the other hand, is an executive, and for his side business, he owns several dozen properties. He works about 80 hours a week at both jobs because his philosophy is that he wants to make as much money as possible while he's young so that he can retire early. Steve thinks Adam is a corporate shill and basically blames him for everything that's wrong with society. Steve said that Adam is actively keeping people from buying homes and making them dependent on him. Adam thinks Steve is a slacker and has told Steve that people like him do the bare minimum, but still expect handouts and that he's what's wrong with society. Neither man is bad, and they treat my daughters well. I retired last year due to my health, so Adam built a house for me so that I can live comfortably. I was able to customize everything in the house to fit my taste. Adam owns the house, pays for all the utilities, and charges me $1 a month for rent. Part of our deal is that no one else can live in the house but me. He was very clear about this. Steve recently lost his job, so he and my older daughter are living off of her single income. As you can imagine, they're struggling. My older daughter recently called me crying because their savings are almost gone and they can't make next month's rent. She asked if she and Steve could move in with me until he finds another job. I live on a fixed income, so I don't have money to set them up in another apartment. She's my daughter, and I couldn't let her be homeless, so I let Steve and her move in. I gave them strict rules and a time limit on when they had to move out. I didn't think my youngest and Adam would find out because they live in another state, but somehow she found out. She called and screamed at me last night for betraying Adam's trust, but I argued that I'm a mother to 2 daughters and I can't let one of them be homeless. I told her about the rules and the time limit, and I begged her not to tell Adam. She hung up on me, so I don't know what's going to happen. I know I went back on our agreement, but I had a good reason to. Okay, OP, well, if you went back on your agreement, then I guess it wouldn't bother you at all if Adam went back on the agreement, right? Right? I mean, seems like a pretty logical solution. You broke the violation, so therefore, if Adam takes back the house and kicks you out, then you shouldn't be upset about it, right? Like, on an ethical level, you're violating the trust of your younger daughter and your son-in-law, so you're wrong on that level. But then also, from like the perspective of a tenant/landlord, I mean, this guy's house is worth money, and he's essentially giving you that money every single month. You two have an agreement that is extremely favorable to you, and you violated that agreement, so he can kick you out. You're wrong on that level too. Oh man, OP also clarifies in an edit that she offered her daughter and her husband 6 months of living there. Yeah, OP, there's a lot wrong with this. Based on how you described your slacker son-in-law, my guess is that the other husband saw this coming. He probably assumed that, inevitably, if he gave you this house, then you would offer to let the other daughter stay there, and if that happened, then they would never move out. I would also wager that the reason why he charges $1 a month is because you have to have some sort of money exchange in order to make a contract valid. So that way he could say no one else can live there on like a standard lease, and then if she breaks the lease, he can kick them out. So I have a feeling this guy saw this coming. Like he saw it coming miles away, and OP did it anyways, and now OP is going to face the inevitable consequences of her incredibly stupid actions. OP, your son-in-law set a very, very clear boundary to you for an extremely generous gift, and you just spat in his face. You lied, you went back on your word, and you hid the truth from him and your daughter. Also, I can't help but point out the hypocrisy of the slacker husband calling the corporate husband a corporate shill and you're what's wrong with society. Meanwhile, he's secretly living in the corporate shill's house for free. I'm giving the corporate husband 0 out of 5 bad guys. What he did was super generous. OP, I'm giving you 3 out of 5 bad guys. You showed incredibly entitled behavior in this post. I'm giving the slacker husband 2 out of 5 bad guys for his hypocrisy. I don't know if I can give any of the daughters in this scenario a bad guy score because it's not exactly clear if they've been hypocritical or betrayed anyone's trust. I think it's very reasonable for the younger daughter to be wounded and call up OP in tears about how she violated her trust, so I've got no issues there. Also, the other one is just, she just married a guy who doesn't have a lot of money. I can't really blame her for that. It's just, now she doesn't have a lot of money, and that's kind of the inevitable consequences of that decision. And, I said I would level out, so I guess I have to level out. In all fairness, I will say that you're a mother and it's your responsibility to care for your kids. So I totally understand why you would want to reach out and offer this extra care to your daughter and her husband. Yeah, it's understandable. I know why you'd want to do it. It's just still, I think it's not the right call. Fundamentally, it's just not your house, OP, so you have to be respectful of the boundaries. Am I the bad guy for prioritizing my parrot over my stepdaughter's wedding? So I'm the owner of a wonderful rescued macaw. She's a wonderful bird, but has a lot of issues due to an abusive former home. I've had her for 3 years, and since then, I haven't taken any vacations or trips away because it would be too disruptive for her. She distrusts everyone and is very reliant on her routine. I love her deeply, and I'm happy to make sacrifices for her. They are permanent toddlers and very intelligent birds. I met my husband by the time his kids were older. My stepdaughter was 16 at the time. We married when she moved away for college. Nevertheless, I thought we'd managed to have a decent relationship. Until now. My stepdaughter is getting married in March, and naturally, there's a lot of preparation involved. They want a huge traditional wedding, and she's stressed out of her mind. They live out of state, and she invited me recently to come visit her for a week to help make wedding plans and spend time with their 2-year-old. I declined, and she insisted to know why, acting very hurt, and I explained about the parrot. Well, it all went downhill from there. She caused a massive fuss with her dad, saying that she never got a mother figure and I never accepted her as my full-blood daughter, and this is the ultimate snub for a silly animal. That I'm cold and emotionless. I feel really hurt, and I can tell that my husband agrees with her, even though he's refusing to take sides. But I don't see why I should be expected to take holiday time off work to babysit and bond all of a sudden, and I don't see how I'm a monster for this. Am I the bad guy here? I think this feels like a no bad guy situation. OP, if you want to prioritize your bird over your stepdaughter, then that's your prerogative. You're closer to your bird than you are to your stepdaughter, which is okay and in some ways understandable. You don't want to go, you don't want to go. Okay, fine. But at the same time, it's very reasonable for your stepdaughter to be wounded by the fact that you're putting a bird over her ostensibly once-in-a-lifetime wedding. So OP, I'm giving you 0 out of 5 bad guys because if that's what you want to do with your life, then you have every right to do that. But I'm also giving your stepdaughter 0 out of 5 bad guys because apparently she thought that you two were closer than you actually are, and now that she's discovering that you're not that close, that can really sting. So if I were in her shoes, I'd probably be really hurt and make a fuss over it too. No judgment here, OP. I feel like if it was my dog who was sick and it was either go to a wedding or spend my dog's last living moments together, I'd pick my dog too. It's just, I would also be aware that if I did that, it would definitely hurt some feelings, so I would have to deal with those consequences. Am I the bad guy for being racist to my son's girlfriend? I'm a 39-year-old man, and I have a son who's 17 who recently got a girlfriend. His girlfriend is black, and a very nice, kind, and beautiful young lady. I met her and invited her for dinner and family events plenty of times, and she's a joy to be around. But recently, my mother's been staying with us because she's recovering from a surgery she had, and she's going on 70 years old, so she can't do much on her own. Long story short, my mother is a classic racist, and being a raging narcissist, she is not one to hold back from her opinions. I showed her a photo of my son and his girlfriend, and she went on this 2-hour rant about bloodlines and kept saying they don't look right. And when I said the girlfriend was coming to dinner, my mom said that she doesn't want the girl near her because it'll disturb her. So last minute, I told the girlfriend that she couldn't come. My son has been trying to invite his girlfriend over every day since then, but I said no multiple times due to his grandmother being here, and her saying that she doesn't want to be near her. I just don't want any problems. But he argues that I'm being a complacent racist by even allowing her to be here. And even more so for not allowing his girlfriend to come over to protect a racist. He says that I should have told my mother to leave the moment my mother said all that stuff. But my mother is an elderly woman who can hardly make it on her own as it is. And it's definitely much harder after surgery. Though I don't agree with her, I can't just leave her to fend for herself. I literally don't know what to do. My wife says my son is right about me being complacent, but of course she would agree because her and my mother don't get along well. I know that I'm not a racist, but now everyone is saying that I'm aiding one by taking my mother's side. OP, you gotta support your aging, feeble mother, so feeble that she can go on 2-hour rants about how much she hates black people. And OP, it's a relief to know that you're not a racist. You merely have racist policies. Whew, what a relief. And here the whole time reading this post, I thought you were racist, but you only support racist practices and ideas. I'm not exactly sure how that's distinguishable from being a racist, but at least you don't think you're a racist. That's quite a relief, OP. Whew. OP, you're at a crossroads. You have to choose between your racist mother and your son who's in an interracial relationship. You can choose your mom if that's what you want to do. You really can back up your racist mom here and have her back until she dies a racist death. Or you could stop alienating your son and being racist towards his girlfriend. Seems like a really obvious choice to me. I mean, that's just me, That's just me. Also, I have to point out that there's a really obvious problem with OP's story, which is that his son has been trying to invite the girlfriend over day after day after day, and OP keeps declining. But if he really does care about his son and he wants to spend time with his girlfriend, what's stopping him from just taking them all out to dinner? Go to some restaurant together, go to a walk in the park together. Instead, he's just saying, sorry, no can do. I got my racist mom here, so I've got to support my racist mom. What other choice do I have? If she really is as feeble as OP says, just lock her in a room. What is she gonna do? Come out with her walker or in her wheelchair, fueled by racist anger? Man, just put a chair up against the door. Look, what I'm saying is there's other things OP can do to try to build a bridge with his son, but OP isn't willing to do any of them, which means he either doesn't really love his son that much, or he really is actually kind of a racist. Am I the bad guy for getting my uncle in trouble and causing him to lose money? I left my church recently, and my dad keeps sending church members to my house to save me. Recently, a pair of church volunteers came over to talk with me. They offered assistance with anything I might need. I had them help around my farm while we talked. We talked about where they're from, what they plan on doing when they get home, how my life is going, and why I stopped believing. The next week, one of them called me and said they weren't sure if they believed either when they left their country, and after our talk, they realized they didn't believe and they wanted to return home. The problem was that their volunteer coordinator was holding on to their important documents so they wouldn't get misplaced, and one of those things were his passport. The coordinator said that he would only give it back after his 2 years were finished. Yo, hold up. This is This is human. This is straight up human trafficking. Okay. He asked if I could get it back for him since the coordinator is my uncle. I spoke to my uncle and he said that he knew that I was the one who corrupted him and basically told me to kick rocks. I told him I would call the cops on him if he didn't give him back the passport, and he said that I didn't have the balls. So I called the cops and they redirected me to the Australian embassy. My uncle was fined quite a hefty amount, and they told him that he had 3 days to return the passport or they would start the process to charge him with human trafficking. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Word got around his church, and now he's been released from his paid coordinator position. My family is saying that I went too far because they knew that he would have given the volunteer his documents back. They said that he has too many physical problems to get another job, and I shouldn't have said anything. I'm starting to think that maybe I did the wrong thing, and I should have tried other avenues before going straight to the cops. Am I the bad guy? OP, okay. How do I say this? This is human trafficking. This is straight up human trafficking. Am I wrong for stopping human trafficking? No, you're not wrong. You know what is wrong? Human trafficking. He literally kidnapped someone and wouldn't let them go home unless he did 2 years of unpaid work. Slavery. It's slavery. OP, your uncle is human scum and deserves much worse than a hefty fine. He deserves to be in jail. OP, you get an easy 0 out of 5 bad guys. Similarly, your uncle gets an easy 5 out of 5 bad guys. There's just something about slave owners that kind of rubs me the wrong way. You know what I mean? That was r/MITheA, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/True Off My Chest, where OP discovers that his girlfriend is pregnant with another man's baby. Our next Reddit post is from Throwaway. My girlfriend just gave birth to our first child. I know that I'm not the biological father, and I revealed that I knew as soon as she gave birth. I found out when she was 6 months along. This guy, Brian, approached me at my work. Are you Sarah's boyfriend? I said yeah, and I asked him what he wanted. He said that he was sorry that he slept with her, and he swore that he didn't know that she was with someone. I don't believe that though. He then pulled out his phone to show the text between them. They'd been sleeping together for at least a year. Then she found out that she was pregnant, and they came to an agreement to just pretend the baby was mine. In return, she wouldn't lose her perfect life, and he wouldn't be responsible for a baby. I knew it was weird. We'd been having problems trying for a baby, and all of a sudden, she got pregnant so easily. But he explained that he had been thinking about it, and he recently became a Christian. He said that he couldn't live his life knowing that I was living a lie while his child didn't know their real father. So, yeah, I told him I'd keep in touch and to not say anything to my girlfriend. I've had a lot of time to think, but ultimately, I decided to wait until she gave birth, to hurt her in her most vulnerable moment. I'll spare you the details, but she went into labor, the baby was born, and she was taken to the NICU to be monitored for a bit. What should have been a beautiful moment of me holding my baby was the most heartbreaking time of my life. Just knowing that he wasn't mine hurt me. Once my girlfriend was sewn up and comfortable, I started packing up my stuff to leave. She asked where I was going, and I just told her. I said, I know that I'm not his father. You can act all shocked, but I know. Just ask Brian to come. I'm positive he'll sign the birth certificates. Then I left. She's been calling my phone over and over, and has even gotten her sister to call me a few times. It was hard pretending these last few months, but I think I'm satisfied. I feel really, really heartbroken though. I was planning to propose to her on the day that our baby was born. I was gonna make her the happiest woman ever. Oh well, I'm gonna go get drunk now. Hey OP, so I definitely commend you for breaking up the relationship because I think anyone in that situation should, because she's clearly shown herself to be a really toxic partner. But I don't know if it's 100% accurate to say the baby's Brian and not yours, because technically it could still be yours, right? So while I do agree with the direction you're taking, you should at least do a paternity test first, because on the off chance that is your baby, he's your responsibility. I mean, definitely don't reopen a relationship with this woman because she's mega toxic, but still, you guys can co-parent together. So I'm on your side, OP. I just think you're being a little hasty here. Oh, scratch that. OP posted an update. This is 20 days after the original post. I'll cut to the chase. I'm not the father, but I already knew that deep down. Brian and the baby were tested to be a match, so that pretty much answers that question. He's very excited to be a dad, even despite the circumstances. We've kept in touch this whole time, and he's actually a really great guy. Goes to church, volunteers at shelters, etc. I'm not sure if we'll continue to stay in touch after this, but I wouldn't mind getting a drink with him every once in a while. I hope the kid does great in life. He should with Brian as his dad. As for Sarah, around the time that I posted this, she had asked Brian to be with her officially since there was nothing to hide. As far as I know, he hasn't taken her up on that offer and just wants to co-parent for the sake of being in his kid's life. I think that's very smart of him, honestly. Me and her have talked as well. We talked about where it all went wrong. She felt as though I wasn't there for her fully and just felt unfulfilled, which I understand. And the rest of the post is just sort of, saying life goes on, she's moving on, he's moving on. Okay. Sad. Kind of a mixed ending here. Kinda sad, kinda hopeful, but OP, I'm glad you're out of that relationship. Our next Reddit post is from Nonular Havoc. I'm a 16-year-old boy, and I was born to my mom when she was 15. I've never known my real dad. My mom didn't drop out of school or anything, and the year after I was born, she started dating Jack, and when they went to university, I obviously got left behind with my grandparents. Mom and Jack got good degrees, got married, and moved to a city by Vancouver. My mom's always been in my life. She would still come home every weekend just to cuddle with me and would always give me these nicknames, but calling me her special guy would be her favorite one. She'd always bring me back presents and gifts and spend the whole time playing with me. She's the one who paid for my tutoring and after-school stuff and would try to make it to games and stuff like that. Jack wouldn't always come with her, but it was always fun when he would. He's taken me fishing with him a lot of times, and we even went camping for 2 weeks together once, but never again because I hate camping. But when I was 10, my mom and Jack had a daughter and then another girl 3 years ago. I don't really know them, especially because my mom stopped coming over as much after they were born. We don't cuddle anymore. We did on my birthday, but that's it. No more cute nicknames for me, except for Special Guy. It's like they all got transferred to her daughters. No more gifts, and the worst part is she doesn't come to my games anymore. It was okay with me before because they still had a spare room in their house and I could go there when it's time for university. Yesterday, my mom FaceTimed and she had a big announcement that she was going to have another baby, and it was a boy, and now she'd have 2 special guys. I guess she saw how sour my face was because she asked what's wrong, and I don't know, I just admitted how jealous I was that her daughters got her so much. And now her son was going to get her, and there wouldn't even be space for me there when I had to go to university. And I guess what I said affected her because she started crying and wouldn't stop and had to hang up. My grandparents are mad that I made her upset and think that I don't value them now or something. Jack phoned me, and now he's mad because my mom thinks it's a mistake now to have another kid. And he's also mad at me because he was like, why would I ever think they wouldn't have room for me? I feel like I really messed up telling her that. And here I am at school writing about it on Reddit because I can't stop thinking about it. Okay. So for the start of the story, I was kind of on the mom's side. Like, she was in a sucky situation, and then she stayed in school and she went off to college to get an education, and she transferred OP to her grandparents. I was like, okay, that kind of sucks. They're making the best of a bad situation, but I understand. But then she left school and she moved out and she left OP with the grandparents. Okay, I don't really understand why she didn't bring OP to live with her then, but okay, I guess. Then she had other kids, and she didn't bring back OP then. And at that point, it's like, okay, I see what's going on here. She's just a bad person. I mean, literally, that's just what it is. She's playing favorites. Her precious daughters get to live with her, but not OP, the unwanted stepchild. OP, you had every single right to call your mother out. Why? Because she's being a terrible mother. And then your stepdad is like, I can't believe you would think that we wouldn't have room for you. Why would he not think that? You've never had room for him his entire life. You've had 16 years to bring OP into your home, to treat him like a son, and you never did it once. Okay, you went camping, I guess, so? Man. And then when you call them out on it, every single person in your family is blaming you for it, OP. OP, your family is super, super toxic. I think you're like too young and too in the middle of it to really understand what's happening. But I hope from the comments on this Reddit post and from the comments on this YouTube video, you can understand that your family is mega toxic, mega toxic. I'm going to be harsh with you, OP, because I think you need a wake-up call. And the wake-up call is that your mother doesn't really love you. I think she just feels guilty about what she did and how she kind of ruined your childhood. Not kind of, how she literally ruined your childhood.
Narrator.
And that's what's causing her to still be involved in your life. Not because she loves you, not because she wants to be around you, but just because she feels bad. She feels like a bad mom because she is a bad mom. If she really loved you, if she really cared about you, if she really wanted you in her life, nothing is stopping her from bringing you from your grandparents' house to her house. But she's never done it, not in 16 years. So it's very safe, very reasonable for us to conclude that she just doesn't love you, OP. I hate to say this because you're the victim here, but honestly, you really need this wake-up call so that you can cut them out of your life and move on, because ahead of you down this path lies nothing but pain. Our next Reddit post is from Throwaway. My husband started acting strangely upon hearing my sister's pregnancy announcement. I feel like I'm going crazy here thinking about it. My husband and I were at my parents' house for dinner. All was going well. We were talking, laughing, and eating. But as soon as my sister announced her pregnancy, I noticed at first that my husband got quiet, didn't get up to congratulate her when the rest of us did, and just kept staring at or towards her. I'm not entirely sure. I repeatedly asked if he was okay, and he mumbled about feeling a bit sick. That was strange because he was perfectly fine that day. Literally moments later, he started throwing up. I had no idea what was happening with him. He sat on the bathroom floor near the toilet, just looking down and refusing to let me help him up to wash his face. I kept asking him if he was okay, but no response. My family was worried about him, and I had to take him home. I checked his temperature and blood pressure, but everything was normal. Still, complete silence on his part. He went to sleep shortly after, and in the early morning at 5:30, I woke up to the sound of him crying in the shower. I rushed in asking if he was okay, but still no response, other than him telling me that he needed a minute with himself. I almost lost it, demanding he explain what was going on, and he told me that he was just feeling overwhelmed. But from what? He's not the type to get stressed out from work or anything of the sort. This is just so strange and out of character for him. He got dressed, left, and then refused to even talk about it. I can't help but feel like this reaction was triggered by my sister's pregnancy announcement, since this all started right after she made it. What makes me feel so horrible is the fact that my sister once implied that my husband was her type and hoped to get someone like him. She has a boyfriend, by the way. This could be nothing, but I can't shake this weird feeling about what happened. Man, this story has just climbed to the top of my list of Reddit posts I most hope shows up on Best of Redditor updates, because I am dying to know what happened after this. I mean, it could be a couple of things, but I'm a big fan of Occam's razor on Reddit. Typically, the simplest explanation is the correct one. Two options. The first option is that OP's husband secretly had an affair with OP's sister and they ended it, and now OP's husband is sad about it. The second is that OP's husband has secretly been in love with the sister all these years, and now that she's pregnant, he suddenly realizes that he could never have her, so he's breaking down. Personally, I think I'm a fan of option 2, just because the crying in the shower and the throwing up is a little strange if they'd been cheating, I think. I think if they'd been cheating, it'd be something closer to like rage or anger or frustration. But like weeping in the shower, that's like mourning, that's loss. So I'm thinking that he's sad because he lost a life that he envisioned for himself with the sister as his wife. I don't know. What do you guys think? Either way, I think things are looking pretty dire for OP. Our next Reddit post is from Reddit Proud Guy. I left the country to avoid paying child support for a kid that I didn't want. I had been with my girlfriend for a year at the time. We were both 22 and just out of university, getting started on our careers. One night, she tells me that she missed her period. We got a test, and it turned out positive. Mind you, I was a bit surprised because I always use protection, and she told me that she was on birth control. We had discussed this prior, and we had decided to hold off on having kids until at least 5 years later when we were both set, so I was sure that we would safely abort. I thought that I'd just be there to comfort her and give her time to process what's happening. 3 weeks later, she tells me she wants to keep it. I keep pleading with her, telling her that I'm not ready and we're not going to be okay financially, but she insists that this is what she wants and that we'll be happy. I firmly told her that I was not on board, and she responded saying that it was her sole decision and she'd made up her mind. We decide to take a break from each other because of the constant fighting and eventually decide to part ways. I spoke to my parents about this, and while I was initially planning to stay back and help raise the kid, they convinced me that it's best if I leave the country. My father was a dual citizen of both the US and another country, which I also inherited. We spoke to multiple lawyers, and I knew that I would be untouchable by US courts, and there weren't any enforceable child support treaties with that country. Last I heard, she had a successful pregnancy and was reaching out to all of our mutual contacts to try to reach me. I only disclosed this information to a few close friends who, thankfully, didn't share anything with her. I do sometimes wonder what it would have been like to raise the child, and I wish her well. But not having any say in the final decision and being forced into it still gives me nightmares. Our next Reddit post is from Inundated with Bros. 2 weeks ago, me and my girlfriend were walking home while a little drunk after a party, and we were robbed by an armed mugger. The guy stopped us, pulled out his firearm, and told us to give him our stuff. I immediately gave him my wallet and phone. My girlfriend decided to be difficult. I don't know why. She's usually very smart, but this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen her done. She refused to give him her phone or purse. She decided that the best course of action was to argue with him. She kept yelling at me to do something, which led to the guy keeping his gun trained on me the entire time. She was just doing too much. She had no sense of self-preservation, and it was very clear she valued her material possessions more than my life. Eventually, I took both from her, gave it to the guy, and he ran off. Afterwards, she was pissed at me for keeping us both alive. I grew up in the hood, and I've had stuff like this happen to me more than once. I know the best way to make it out of these situations is to just give them your stuff so they'll leave. Yeah, it effing sucks losing money, but that's a lot better than getting hurt or worse in the streets over a few $100. Both of our lives are worth more than that, but she apparently didn't see it that way. Her utter lack of desire to keep both of us alive over money is a huge wake-up call to me. Like, if she's gonna be this effing stupid in a potentially life or death situation, then how can I trust her to be with me throughout the rest of my life? Well, that's the thing, OP. You can't. The way that your girlfriend responded was horrifying, and you're lucky that you didn't get shot. Down in the comments, we have some pretty crazy stories. Amy G. Dallad says, I know a guy who got shot in the head during a Craigslist sale gone robbery. It was over $200. He somehow lived, but yeah, he refused to hand over the $200 item. And then another story from Ilshop. My friend's husband died because he tried to fight a carjacker. They murdered him and took his car anyway. My wife and I live in a big city. We've had a couple of conversations about this. Rule number 1 is absolutely give them whatever they want. I can replace the phone, car, credit card. I can't replace my wife. I can't believe your girlfriend was that dumb to risk both of your lives over material things. That was r/Drew Off My Chest, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/best of Redditor updates, where OP's son spends $300,000 on prostitutes. Our next Reddit post is from Relationship Advice. Me and my now deceased ex-wife have 5 kids together. 3 sons, ages 35, 30, and 28, and 2 daughters, ages 24 and 21. A few years ago, their mother passed away and left each of them a very large inheritance. Over 300 pounds each, evenly distributed among them. So for context, 300,000 pounds is worth about $371,000 US. Prior to her passing, she made it clear to them that this money was not to be wasted. It was to be used to pay off debt, used for further education, and to put towards buying a house in the future. My 28-year-old son and 24-year-old daughter have completely squandered this money in just a couple of years. My daughter spent it all traveling across the world carefree, staying in nice hotels and eating fancy dinners. I completely understand going on vacation, but to blow all of it on travel against her mother's wishes? Bloody shameful. My son is even worse. He has literally spent it all on drugs, alcohol, and escorts over this time. None of it has gone towards self-improvement like their mother wanted. So I continued to hound them over this time and time again until, as expected, it was all wasted. Once this happened, I decided to cut them both out of my will. Because I don't want my hard-earned money being squandered so my kids can live a hedonistic lifestyle for a couple of years. I told this to their siblings in confidence so that they would be prepared to deal with the fallout when I eventually pass. One of them, I'm not sure who, spilled the beans, and now my other kids have gone off the deep end and proclaimed that I'm dead to them and that they don't have a dad. I don't want to go into a long, bitter feud with my kids, but I'll be damned if I'm going to have my life savings wasted by them also. Any advice on how to fix this? Okay, $300,000 on travel is pretty nutso, that's pretty extravagant. But $300K on drugs and escorts? That must have been a hell of a good time. Then, 5 days later, OP posted an update. So I took the advice of the previous thread, which was overwhelmingly to consider setting up a trust for my 2 problem kids. Before I even invited the 2 of them over to talk the issue over, my son called me to apologize for how he was acting. He seemed genuinely ashamed of the things he said and admitted that it was wrong of him to waste his mother's savings like that. Anyway, I invited the 2 of them over to tell them my plans. My son seemed very apologetic, while my daughter was clearly still upset with me. I told them that I would reinstate their inheritance, but since they've demonstrated extremely poor money management, that I'll only do so through a trust. I said that I would talk with a proper lawyer and financial expert on setting them up, and they'd be designed to provide for them and any future kids that they might have for many years after I was gone. I said that them blowing through the money in a few years was simply not an option. My son took the news very well and said that he wouldn't trust himself with that money anyways. I'm not sure what caused such a sudden change of heart in my son, but it seemed genuine. He also offered to go to therapy for his passionate hugging and drug addiction if I helped pay, which I agreed to. I'll make sure the therapist actually exists, don't worry. My daughter did not take it well. Christ! Far worse than I expected. Here I am willing to give them a second chance, and she just blows up about how it's not fair that it's only them that don't get the money outright. I explained that their siblings had demonstrated that they were responsible with money, and hence why I would leave it to them outright. Nope, not good enough for her. She doubled down that spending all of her mother's £300,000 on travel was justified. She had the gall to again call me several extremely upsetting names and accuse me of being emotionally abusive. So I told my daughter that since I'm retiring soon, perhaps I should experience the joys of travel also. Perhaps I should spend her inheritance that I've worked for my entire life on travel myself. She stormed out and hasn't contacted me since. I'm really proud of how my son has taken the news, and I'm extremely disappointed in my daughter. I'm genuinely considering spending her part of the inheritance on travel myself at this point. Okay, OP, so with this story, I actually don't really disagree with your kids. They got $300K. If they want to spend that money on travel, then it's their money. So if they want to waste it that way, they can waste it that way. I mean, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's a wise way to spend £300,000, but, you know, it's their money at the end of the day. Using that same logic though, your money is your money, and if you don't want to give it to your kids because you don't like the way they're going to spend it, then that's 100% your right. I do actually agree with your kind of final idea that you should have fun because, you've worked hard, you lost your wife, you're alone in life. Why not just spend your golden years, traveling the world, having some fun? Hell, you could even invite your kids along with you and pay for some extravagant vacation for the 6 of you to go out, have fun, experience the world. I mean, why not, OP? It's your money, you've earned it. Also, OP clarified in a comment that he didn't ever own a business. He just worked a normal job, but he saved and invested every dollar that he could. So the fact that he and his wife had, 300,000 pounds times 5 kids is 1.5 million pounds. So we're just gonna guess that OP made that much as well. So that's 3 million pounds between him and his wife. That's an insane amount of money for people working normal middle-class jobs. So OP, really, you deserve this. You deserve some time off. I 100% agree that you should spend some of this money on yourself, OP. Our next Reddit post comes from r/home improvement. So I messed up bad, real bad. 2 weeks ago, me and my wife decided it was time to replace our falling apart laminate floors. The location of the laminate we were replacing was in the kitchen, dining room, family room, living room, and main hallway. We thought it'd be nice to have all the rooms, including the kitchen and dining room, all one floor. So we ripped up all the old click laminate. In the hallways and family room, we found the original 1970s vinyl underneath. We got the tile up in the kitchen, and we're left with an absolute mess of thin set. As a quick aside here, thin set is like the stuff in between the floor and the tile on top of the floor. So it's like mortar that kind of binds it together, I think. So I googled the easiest way to get up thin set. I found a video on YouTube showing how to use a grinder with a shop vac attachment and diamond grinding wheel. So I tried that, and it worked great, and I was super proud of how well it came out. Here's where the story goes south. 2 days later, my dad came over to check the progress we made. I was showing him the kitchen, explaining the process I used to quickly take the thin set off. My father looked at the floor and asked what was the material on it. I said it's concrete, and he said, no, it's not. He grabbed a utility knife and cut a small square of material off the floor where I had ground down the thin set. It was a paper-like material that was brittle. He said that it looked to be the paper backing that came with old vinyl sheet flooring. He looked over at the family room, saw the old sheet flooring, and told me that I had to get out of the house and get the materials tested. So I packed up the wife and kids and went to my parents' house for the weekend. Oh no. Yesterday, the testing company came out and took samples from all over the house. Today, we received the results. Both the vinyl in the family room and the paper that was below the thin set tested positive for asbestos. The paper stuff below the thin set tested positive for 15% white crystalline asbestos. The story gets worse. I ground down a spot on Wednesday night, and I did a little bit more on Thursday night. We live in South Florida, so we ran the air conditioning overnight both nights. I then continued to finish the job on Friday. Because I pulverized the asbestos into a fine powder, and even though I was running the shop vac pulling up the material as I went, I don't have a HEPA filter. And I just had a regular collection bag, so therefore, the asbestos, through the help of my AC, has contaminated my entire home. I exposed my family to a toxic, cancer-causing element and effectively ruined my home because I didn't know what I was doing. Something so innocent as just wanting to lay floors has turned into an absolute nightmare. I consider myself lucky because if it wasn't for my father, we would have continued to lay the floor and just cleaned up and never had a second thought about it and just lived in it. I asked the asbestos tester that, based on her experience, was it common for homeowners to do exactly what I did and never know about it? She said that probably about 90% of people who do DIY do not test it and don't know they've contaminated their home. She told me that some contractors are even worse because they've done so many homes. They're often working with unskilled labor who don't know or don't care and just rip it up, contaminate the area, and leave. Anyways, sorry for the wall of text, but I literally feel sick about what happened. We have no access to anything in the home. We'll likely have to trash clothes, sheets, basically any fabrics in the home. we're in a position where we can afford to fix the problem, but honestly, it's clearing us out. Let my mistake be a lesson. Be safe. And then OP posted an update. Well, it was bad. As bad as I thought that it would be. I received 4 quotes for the decontamination and the removal of the rest of the asbestos-containing floors, which range from $17,000 all the way up to $38,000. All contractors I spoke with told me essentially the same thing, that all porous material had to be disposed of and that my fiberglass AC ductwork also had to go. The contractor we went with ended up costing us $22,000 for the abatement and another $7,000 for the ceiling repairs and refinishing. Then OP writes a long paragraph where he explains that the contractor says that he's never seen someone grind up the asbestos like this, and as a result, the air samples are terrible. Then he continues, by the end of it, we lost all of our couches, mattresses, clothing, towels, sheets, pretty much anything that had fabric on it. The ceilings had to be ripped apart to pull the AC ductwork out without contaminating the attic, as well as my air handler having to be completely disassembled and cleaned. I cannot stress this enough. If you're in an old house and you're going to be performing your own demo work on anything that could even remotely contain asbestos, spend $20 on a DIY test kit and wait a week for the results. I cannot stress enough how much of a pain in the butt it is to get rid of asbestos once it's in the air. Man, OP, you'll be lucky if that $30,000 repair bill is the only consequence you face for this action. Man, I don't want to pile on the misery here, but OP said that he has kids in that house. It's very possible that he has doomed his kids to an early death. Do you guys know how asbestos works? Basically, you inhale the fibers because they're very, very small. And actually, they're so tiny that the fibers physically get inside of cells and damage the cells from the inside, which turns the cell cancerous. And then once the asbestos particle is in your body, it just lives there forever until you die. Our next Reddit post comes from r/TrueOffMyChest. My boyfriend is going to cry, and I don't feel bad about it. In fact, I'm excited. I've been with my boyfriend for a little over 3 years now. I don't even think there are words to describe how I feel about him. My life changed in an unimaginable way when he entered it. There's no one on the planet that could ever make me feel the love that I feel when I look at him. I never thought that I would find someone who treats me this way, or that I even deserved a partner like him. He never fails to remind me that he thinks about, loves, and adores me. The other day, he made a passing comment that any experience he's ever had is always so much better if my presence is there. So, my boyfriend is a huge fan of Legos. Massive! He always buys smaller sets from Target and builds them in his free time to relax. Anytime we go to the mall, he always wants to walk around the Lego store just to marvel at the big sets. He can afford them, but he's the type to not spend money on himself. Every time we go in, I always catch him staring at the Star Wars Cantina set. He always talks about how one day, maybe he'll muster up the courage to put $400 down and fulfill his dream. But he won't have to do that because I just ordered it off the Legos website. And because I spent more than $150, I get a small Santa set. So my plan is, I'm just going to gift him the Santa set, and then, when we're alone, I'm gonna surprise him with the Cantina. He's done so much for me this year, and I can't imagine not giving this to him. So yeah, he's gonna cry, but I'm excited about it. Thanks for listening. And then, 1 month later, OP posted an update. One small thing to mention before getting into the update is that I ended up going back to the Lego store and buying the Boba Fett throne room set to match the Cantina because I know that he wanted it, and, well, why not? We did our normal gift giving with my family, and I ended up putting the throne room under the tree, which he lost his mind when he opened it because he's been talking about that set for a while. After everyone settled down after gift giving and started to eat and watch Christmas movies, I asked him if he could help me do something upstairs quickly. When we got upstairs, I told him that I'd forgotten to put something under the tree. When I pulled the box out from under my bed, he looked confused, but started to unwrap it slowly. When he pulled the paper back and saw the words Mos Eisley Cantina, he stopped moving for a few seconds because I don't think his brain was even fully registering what was in front of him at the time. His eyes started watering slightly. He kept saying things like, "No way," before he started grinning and tearing all the paper away. He started hugging me and kept asking why I would spend so much money on him, and I told him it was because I loved him and I wanted him to be happy. He went through a mixture of jumping in excitement, hugging me, and crying for a few minutes. He kept talking about his plans to clear out the shelf behind him and put it on display in his work background. He then ended up surprising me by saying that he had also not put something under the tree because he wanted to have it be an intimate moment between the two of us. He went to the closet and was laughing about how he had put it on the top shelf because he knew that I wouldn't be able to reach it or see it. I'm very short, lol. When he came out, he was holding a tiny box, and when I opened it, there was a beautiful diamond necklace inside, which obviously made me cry like a baby. Oh, this is so sweet! This is so sweet! The reason why this guy couldn't afford buying Legos is because he was buying amazing gifts for his girlfriend. I mean, I don't know what a diamond necklace would cost because the price can range from like thousands of dollars to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, so we can only guess here. But I'm very confident that a diamond necklace would cost more than a Lego set. After he put it on me, we shared a nice moment together, kissing and hugging. I told him that I purposely saved the points that I got from buying the set so that he could get $50 off his next Lego set. He told me that he wanted to get me a set so that he could spend the duration of building his set while I was building a set next to him. So over the weekend, we went to the Lego store, and despite me saying that I was happy with a smaller set that I would build slowly so I wouldn't finish before him, he insisted on getting me a big one and bought me the Bowser because he knows that it's one of my favorite characters. We had a great Christmas and have been having lots of fun having designated building time together. OP, I'm warning you, get out now while you still can. I bought my first Lego set like 6 months ago, and without exaggeration, I've already dropped $1,000 on Lego sets. Probably closer to like $1,500, I think. So for the sake of your wallet, OP, I hope that you hate building Legos, because if you enjoy it, you're in trouble. That was r/best of Redditor updates, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day. Welcome to r/best of Redditor updates, where OP absolutely despises her own daughter. Today's episode is sponsored by Bespoke Post. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering a box of awesome top-shelf goods from under-the-radar brands. It's free to join, and you can skip a month or cancel anytime. 90% of the products come from small brands, many of which are based right here in the US. Every month, they introduce our members to cool new products, outdoor gear, barware, home and kitchen goods, clothing, and more, even live oysters, based on a preference quiz that you fill out. Every box of awesome has around $70 of goods inside, but only cost you a fraction of that value. I'm a big fan of the Weekender box, an heirloom quality carryall that's great for men. I also picked up the Flame box, which comes with a really nifty miniature fireplace so you can enjoy a cozy fire anywhere. To get 20% off your first box of awesome, go to bespokepost.com/r/20 or use r/20 at checkout. My boyfriend wanted to go on a vacation this summer to his mom's friend house in Hawaii with me and his two best friends, a 25-year-old guy and a 29-year-old girl. We'd been planning this all spring, and at some point, his 25-year-old guy friend dropped out of the trip, leaving just the three of us. For context, my boyfriend and I have been going out since November, and it's been serious. We've been talking about moving in together, and he said, and I agree, that this is a long-term situation and that we're in it for good. In early June, once the 25-year-old guy friend unexpectedly dropped out of the trip, the 29-year-old female friend called my boyfriend and told him that now that it was just the three of us, she didn't feel comfortable with me going on the trip, since she didn't know me that well and she didn't want me to be a third wheel. She said that if I were to go, then she wouldn't go on the trip. Without telling me that this was happening, they changed the plans and made it a trip with just the two of them, and they changed the location to a beach in Costa Rica. I was trying to figure out when to ask for time off this summer, and I hadn't heard news about the plans, so I asked my boyfriend which week in August I should set aside for the Hawaii trip. He let me know that, actually, he had talked to his friend, and she didn't want to go if I was going. So he was going to go alone, with her, to Costa Rica. He said that we could go another week later, maybe to Mexico City or something.